and Senator Owen Hill. Kathie, why don't you take the center stage here and tell us your role, Senator Owen Hill's role. We know he's a legislator from El Paso County, Colorado Springs. How would you say it, Owen?
Colorado Springs, right in the middle of town.
Oh, you're right in the middle of town.
Yes, sir.
Where? I mean, you have an office there that you hold. What is going on around the country? For those national people, those town halls. Do you have an office right in the Springs?
We prefer local businesses, and that's where we host all our town halls, coffee shops, brew pubs, you name it.
Okay, good. So are you right, like on Nevada, or right?
We're right by Penrose Main Hospital.
Penrose Main Hospital.
Yep.
Larry, is that where you were, by the way?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, but he's been there. All right. Kathie, take it away and tell us who you are and talk to us about this construction defect litigation reform, because I just heard from a lender just today, just this morning, who said, well, how can we change that law, and then will that allow builders to just slap anything together? I said that's quite the opposite of reality. Tell us what the reality is and about the bill.
Absolutely. First off, thanks for having us here this morning. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here. My role in this, I serve as the co-chair of the Homeownership Opportunity Alliance, which is a coalition of 55 organizations, which includes, as you would expect, builder and developer organizations, but it also includes housing advocates like Housing Colorado, Habitat for Humanity, Hope Communities. It includes economic development organizations and the Metro Mayor's Caucus. But most importantly, we all like to say that we're all homeowners and we live in homeowner association communities. So not only are we professionally interested, but we're personally invested.
Nice.
Right. So what's the problem? The problem is in 2007, roughly 22% of the new housing stock that was coming online was a condominium project. Today, that's 2%. So what changed? It became easier for homeowner associations, the board of that association, so it could be...
By the way, frequently we'll call them the little Hitler boards, just so you know. That's how they act. They don't act American as far as this consumer advocate is concerned, but continue.
Well, okay.
Sean Spicer moment there.
Okay. And you're right. In a lot of cases, what will happen is these homeowner association boards will determine themselves whether or not to take a condominium project into litigation. So you could have, let's say, a 100-unit project, and a homeowner association board of 2 to 5 people could take that into litigation. So you have 2 or 3 people deciding sort of the fate of the people in the association. Now, I don't want to minimize the fact that sometimes there are defects.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Absolutely.
and of course, there are some genuine, we use the word genuine when it's really honest, verifiable and factual, and we'd all agree, gee, that's a problem. But
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
Anyway.
And we want nothing more than to let the customer be whole.
Yes.
Which is really what we all want in this.
You bet.
And so, but what we're finding is that these lawsuits can take 3 to 5 years, and a number of people in the community may not even know that their community's in a lawsuit. For instance, we have an example of a woman in the Villaggio development in the southern part of the metro area, who was about 10 payments from paying off her condominium, and unfortunately discovered that she had a medical issue. So she was going to use her largest personal asset, her house, and refinance that to take care of her medical issue, only to find out that the development is in a litigation situation. She can't refinance, she can't sell, she cannot use her largest asset to help take care of her.
And she had no idea
She had no idea.
Because, well, there's a lot I want to say. I want to listen, and our listeners want to hear. So that in the context, then, what do we need to reform here? And quickly, if we can, yet this session.
Well, I would actually like to ask Senator Hill to step in at this point, because he's been working very closely with the Homeowner Association Homeownership Opportunity
The
Alliance,
Opportunity Allowance, yep.
to put together some legislation that we hope would help with this issue.
Two main areas I think that make this much better for consumers. The first is just making sure consumers are informed when they buy their property, and if they are going to go into litigation, that they know the impacts.
That they have to be informed. I mean, told about it.
That's
boy, that's a concept.
You wouldn't think it would be so controversial,
right.
But that has been one of the big sticking points in our Senate Bill 156 that has passed the Senate, and it's awaiting a hearing in the House. So making sure the consumer's informed, and then in these other areas, when there is a disagreement about what a defect is and how it impacts people, to use a great process we have here in Colorado, some form of mediation or arbitration, bringing both sides together and finding resolution rather than just leaving it to a 3 to 5 year process in the courts.
Larry?
What about having the homeowners vote on whether to sue or not? Is there any such concept in the law?
There is in this bill, and you have to get a majority of those homeowners to vote and agree to go forward with the litigation.
Because that means they have to be informed, and it means that 2 or 3 people aren't making the decision for the whole community.
That's exactly right. If you're going to tie up someone's biggest asset, that really their biggest savings account, the equity they have in the place that they own, they need to have a say in that. That is consumer protection. That's the task of government, to make sure there's not tyranny of a few tying up everyone else's finances.
And it seems so obvious. Why is it having so much trouble getting through the legislature?
There are people who benefit greatly from the status quo. And if you want to understand the analogy I've come up with to help understand how big of a deal this is.
May I interject? May I?
Please.
I have this issue. I'm being very, very quiet. And it's hard for me to stay still on this issue. There are culprits, not in our society. There are culprits in our legislature in Colorado that are not seeing the benefit of changing this antiquated anti-consumer law into something that is real. They don't even know who Socrates is, but Socrates said the most important word in the language is balance. We are so far out of balance because of the current law, and if those culprits, would never ask you to name them, but I sure would like them named. They're afraid to come on and talk about it, and I don't care what party they are. I'm a registered independent, lived in Denver for 30-some years, now live in Arapahoe County, Aurora, so I cut it both ways. There's one of those is more one way than the other, typically, and it doesn't matter what party. They got to get their head out of the sand where they obviously have been living for too long. So I'm sorry, that's where we come from on this show, and our listeners know it. So this is wonderful to hear it, Senator Owen. Tell us more what we can do, or what we don't have many days left in the legislature timeline this year.
You're exactly right. The culprits, they are in the legislature.
They are.
This is bipartisan. Outside of that, Denver City Council passed 11-0, a similar policy. Mayors across Colorado supporting it. Everyone from the realtors to the home builders to Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah.
And across the political spectrum has the support for this kind of change. And so the biggest thing we can do is encourage members in the House to support Senate Bill 156, but also to hold them accountable and ask them very clearly, why don't you support empowering the consumer to have a say in whether or not their condo goes into litigation?
It seems so obvious that it's just hard to believe, but all these cities are passing laws to try to get around this bill. But I talked to a developer the other day who said, I'm sorry, but even if it passes, City of Colorado Springs allows an amendment to the bill, we're afraid the state will trump the locality. We're not building. So,
and it makes sense. I'm all for the consumer, but builders can't build really at all. So we get that. What else can we do? Is there anything more concrete? I mean, it's the House. I mean, the House has how many members in it in Colorado? If I remember, how many members?
65.
65, right? Because the
65.
Senate has 35, if I remember correctly, right?
That's correct.
Okay, I forgot. I was a lobbyist like 30 years ago, so it's been a while. But
A reformed lobbyist. I like it. I like it. There is hope.
There is hope. Thank you very much, Senator Owen. There is hope. But we like to say on this show, there's always hope. There is hope. So we only have a couple of weeks, and I know there's this Senate Bill 156, and is it House Bill
1279.
What can we do? Not just on this show. What can our listeners do? Like this coming week, can we come down there? Can we parade around the Capitol? Can we, do something?
Kathie and I could introduce you to the legislators. Come on in, be my personal guest on the Senate floor. Make your voice be heard. I'm happy to give out my personal contact information. People can reach out and
please. Are you happy to do it? We have
Absolutely.
thousands of listeners here. Thousands. Please share that, and listeners, be ready.
Best email, and we can coordinate that way, is Owen J. Hill, OwenJhill @gmail.com. You can come down we will be working all week long, so come down this week anytime from 8 in the morning until, I'm sure we'll be there till 8 o'clock most nights this week.
And now, when does the legislature end? By Colorado statute,
May 10th.
May
we will
10th.
be wrapped up.
May 10th. I didn't know.
But this week is going to be a critical week, and I know Kathie has helped coordinate and work on these bills. It looks like we will have a hearing on some of these bills at least this week. And so having your voice be heard directly and seeing the process from the inside will empower anyone listening, anyone who wants to make a difference in this area. Come make your voice be heard, and you can do it in a very personal, very professional way here at the state capitol.
Barry, I suggest that Barry and Larry go in and express the views for our audience.
We hear
who
from
can't
our
come.
listeners. Well,
That's right.
Larry, what's Monday like? Look, I didn't know that was going to happen, or this was going to happen. Is Monday as good a day as Wednesday or Tuesday? Is any one of those days more effective if we're there?
I would say Tuesday or Wednesday, sometimes Monday after a holiday weekend or the
that's
Easter.
what I thought.
There can be a little catch up, but Tuesday or Wednesday, if you want to be my personal guest in the Senate, I will take you around, introduce you anytime.
Tuesday,
our company has a big meeting that we're in charge of, and I just think we cancel that meeting for this week and come. We'll be there Tuesday morning, but work with that when we take our break.
Your work will make a difference.
And we
That's
want
awesome.
to, because, and we will speak properly. But you know what? We're not afraid to call a culprit, because we consumers, what have we heard? If 2016 didn't cause the people whose head is in the sand or worse places to realize that consumers, and here, look, we're consumer advocates. You know what's wrong with the culprits? They don't even know how to pronounce the word constituent. They don't even know balance is the most important word, and we'll do what we can to help them. Our intent isn't to be heard. Our intent is to switch some of these people's, I don't know what to call it, to be polite.
Barry
Let's
and
be
Larry.
polite and call it arms.
Okay.
But you say balance, and in all fairness, they're very concerned about balance. They're concerned about the balance in their checking
That's what I was
account.
afraid of.
Oh, good point.
Kathie.
Barry, one more way to communicate with the legislature is your listeners could go to Google the Homeownership Opportunity Alliance.
So a simple Google search.
Google
for
search Homeownership Opportunity Alliance. And there's more information on that website about the bills, about the issue. There are call for actions on that website, so they can just go to that website, hit the call for action. It will automatically
Wow,
link them
that's
to their
good.
legislators. So
Good. Now,
would
did we
encourage
all
them to
get
do
that? HOOA, Home Ownership Opportunity Alliance. Just Google that, and our listeners can make a difference. Now, listeners, Barry and Larry have never taken an issue and done anything like this with it, but this has been the burning issue for the last years. We've only been on the show 3-4 years. This has been the burning issue. It's time now that our great listeners come. And by the way, Senator Owen Hill, give your information again, because maybe some others would like to come down and speak to the legislators and help the culprits see to get out of that domain and come into the domain of public servants.
Absolutely. Your voice is very valuable up there. It cuts through. It's the voices directly from our constituents. Email me at my personal email address, owenjhill@gmail.com, and I will coordinate with you, and we can host as many people as would like to come and make their voice heard.
Well, we're just going to see what we can do, and we're going to talk much more about it at 11 o'clock show today than I ever thought we would.
And
Kathie,
feel free to give out my information as well if that's helpful to you all. I'm happy to answer any questions we can over the coming couple of days.
And I have no idea if culprits know how to read data, and I'm being a little sarcastic there, and I don't mean it in the worst way. But I gave you a couple data sheets. I don't know if that could be useful or not. We do a weekly report. That's just today I ran out of time to get all of the higher priced ones.
Scribbling is hard to read.
No, this is Larry. That's wrong. That's incorrect about this stuff, my friend. This is the special report that we do weekly for our listeners, and it's legible. And if that could be of help, but we'll be down.
That'll be great.
Tuesday morning.
Well, I look forward to seeing you all
We'll
again
set
there.
a time off the air.
Sounds great.
Okay, any final comments for our listeners?
You know, if you want to understand how big of a deal this is, think about if we took all the farm teams out of Major League Baseball. That's what we've done. We've taken all the entry-level opportunities for home ownership away from Coloradans. This is stolen home ownership from 20% of Coloradans. Politicians created this problem. It's time for politicians to fix this problem.
And I'm going to add, I hear every single week I work in my daily work with first-time buyers who are now in the market for the second and in some cases third year, because they can't find the products. And you know what they're looking for? Condominiums under $200,000 to get into the market. And that is not okay for our great country. Kathie?
Again, thank you for letting us be here to talk about this. And as we look at, many of you saw the Denver Post a couple of weeks ago, and the cover of the Denver Post talked about the 12 most expensive counties in the nation for housing. 7 of that 12 are on the Front Range, and the top 4 are on the Front Range.
And it's absolutely nuts. We don't belong there, but we are there.
Yeah, and it's because we've taken an entire segment of the market out. So you can't have good market pricing if you don't have good market value. So we've got to, one of the things the Homeownership Opportunity Alliance was very clear about when we went into this process was we wanted to pass a bill, not just to pass a bill, but one that would actually encourage development of condominiums while protecting consumers.
We're going to help. Thank you, Kathie Barstnar of the Home Ownership Opportunity Alliance. Thank you, Senator Owen Hill. It's a pleasure meeting both of you, and we hope to see you both there on Tuesday.
Thank you all.
Very much.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.